Everybody, and welcome back to Rent Free with Mackenzie Davis. Oh, wow. This week is going to be a lot of real estate talk. I am in the thick of it with a lot of different deals and a lot of different clients and just kind of chaos, which is surprising because this time of year is not supposed to be like this, or at least the trajectory of my career has not been like this in the fall and winter around the holidays. Usually this is when I have like no clients. So I'm not saying I'm not grateful because I am, but it's definitely a lot. So that's going to be the majority of what we talk about in the beginning of this episode for what's been living rent free in my head. And then for the content of this episode, clearly, as you read, probably for the title, is more focused on like things that I've learned myself as a 23-year-old in this business over the past 4 years. And I know I've touched on this topic before, but I'm aiming to really just like give you guys real raw advice in the sense that like no BS, like here's how I feel about these things and here's what I've learned. And maybe not conventionally, maybe not like what you'd hear in Tom Ferry's mentorship platform. I don't know. I just like to be real and I like to give you an authentic perspective. So we'll get into that later. But the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was this crazy story that ended up not working out, but I just wanted to talk about it because it is insane. And it talks about a lot of the creativity and like the possibilities within real estate, like what you can do and how just amazing it can be. So I have this one client who I've been working with for about a year. She is slow going, which is totally fine. She just is, she doesn't have any rush. She's just waiting to find something that she likes. And she is a TikTok client. So I met her through TikTok, which is awesome. You guys know that is like my number one lead source. She's looking in an area that's about 2.5 hours away from me. And I never turn down a client. I kind of just work it until I can't. So for example, if like she wanted to see 6 houses every day, 2.5 hours away, I would refer the client out, right? But in this case, she hasn't even sent me any properties that she's liked from the search I've sent her in the entire year until last weekend. So I hadn't been confronted with this issue up until this point. So she sends me a property, she wants to see it. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's figure this out. So I called the listing agent and I was like, hey, I have this client, really, been working with her for a long time. And I think this property, she's really going to like it. And the property in itself had been on the market since August. Huge deal right now because obviously properties are flying off the market. So if it's still there, they don't have any offers. Also, very motivated seller, literally says it in the agent remarks. The husband passed away. She already had moved out of the house across the country, just wanted to sell it. Price reduction of $30,000. My buyer's closing cost, cash to close, less than $500. Okay, like this couldn't have been more perfect, right? Still though, I'm like, how is she going to see this house? So I call him, the listing agent, and I said, hey, I will pay you if you could go to the listing. Obviously, he's the listing agent. He's closer to the property, I'm sure. And he's like, I said, can you FaceTime her? And he's like, so funny story. I actually live where you live. I saw you're at Douglas. I am from there too. I just have hunting land down here. And I was like, oh, great. So he's not even from the area. So he's like, and we're like laughing at this point. He's like, to make matters worse, there's no service in this area. And because the house is vacant, they don't have Wi-Fi. So if you were to try to FaceTime, it just won't work. Like, I guarantee it. I'm like, well, shit, because my buyer is coming from out of state. Like, she was never going to meet me at the property regardless. So I'm like, okay. So no FaceTime. So what do? I text my buyer. I'm like, all right, well, so video is going to have to be it because there's no other way. She can't come to the property. She can't do the FaceTime. So we're going to have to do video. But I still don't want to drive to this property just to get videos, right? Like that just feels so like, ugh, I'd rather just pay someone to do it. I'd spend more on the gas getting there and waste so much time. But I'm like, what do I do? So I post on my Facebook, my real estate Facebook page for my brokerage. And I'm like, hey guys, any realtors down in Wacomico County, which is where the property was, and anybody willing to show this property, of course, I'll compensate you. And I get a call from my team lead. And he's like, hey, I saw your post. My daughter, she goes to college right there. And she just got a real estate license. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think of that. His daughter is the best. She's going to be on our team as soon as she graduates college, but she goes to school there. And I was like, oh, this is so perfect. She's never shown a house. She's never done anything like this, but this is the perfect opportunity because she's going to go take videos of this house. There isn't a buyer there. It's just like very low key, low maintenance. So I pay her, send her to the property. There really was no service. She had to get all the way back to campus before she could send me the videos because there was no service. And all in all, like at the end of the day, I would have, if this deal went under contract, it didn't, and that's fine, but I would have never met the buyer, never been to the property, and my buyer would have closed for less than $500. And I just think that is insane, like that is even a possibility. And I would have made $6,000 on that deal. Ugh, like what? Like what? Like how is that possible? So that's the first thing that's been living rent free in my mind. The second is that I do have a deal under contract right now, and I'm very excited about it. It's more of just a traditional sale. I got this client through Op City, and I don't even remember when. And I don't remember when I started talking to her. I just like all of a sudden was showing her a property, which I know sounds really strange, but I've been doing a lot of work with my CRM and reaching out to clients that I haven't spoke with in a while, which also means like shoring up old Op City clients that I haven't talked to in a while. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a client that I accepted recently, because I don't quite do that often, or if this is someone from a really long time ago that I just happened to reach out to. Either way, we saw one house and then we saw one condo, and the condo is the one that we're under contract on. Just as of today, we are having some issues with the condo financing because of the fact that it is not insured by Fannie or Freddie, conventionally or FHA, which is a problem. That's not very common to happen. Usually it's just FHA that wouldn't insure a condo. So we're working through that with the loan team, who's also my boyfriend. So he keeps calling me. And I've been telling him too, like, it's funny because obviously usually if I don't work with a lender that I know, I don't get calls 10 times a day with updates. And I also don't get calls that are panicked, like I do with my boyfriend. And I'm not saying there needs to be a panic, but my boyfriend is the type of person to lose something that was never lost and then call me first to find it when it was sitting on the table the whole time, if that makes any sense. I'm sure other men are this way too. But like, he'll be like, oh my God, I lost my phone. And I'm like, it's literally right there. But when we first started dating, like the panic that ensued would freak me out so bad until I realized like, oh no, he hasn't even looked yet. Like he's panicking for no reason. With work, it's the same thing. Like he'll call me and be like, oh my God, we just found out blah, 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 this with the deal, just to let you know. And I'm like, okay, so what's the next steps? Does that mean like we can't do this? And he's like, oh no, well, I mean, so-and-so's going to do this, blah, blah, it'll be fine. I'm like, then don't do that to me. Like, do not do that to me. So I'm learning now that everything will be okay. And I prefer not to hear all of the little details on the loan side, because apparently there's way more hiccups than I ever knew of. When working with other lenders. So not that there's like hiccups because of him. I made that sound like they have problems, just that I don't get the inner workings of the process when I'm working with other people like I do with him, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so that's kind of how that's been going. We already did the inspection. Hopefully they'll be doing repairs. The hot water heater was broken, so that's really the only thing we really need to have fixed. And then the third thing that's really not living that rent free in my mind, but I have an investor client that I went and saw property with that has more than anything inspired me to just kind of like get excited about my next investment, because I'm excited to like do that. I call the house that I live in an investment because that's the intended purpose, but right now I'm living in it. It's a primary residence. It's not an investment. So I'm excited to call this an investment for real, and to also buy another property. And it's just been, the gears have been turning. The budget has been budgeting. The savings have been saving. So, just getting all of that stuff, all my ducks in a row and everything for that kind of stuff, especially with like 2025 business planning and, all of that going on. It really just inspires me. So anywho, I think without further ado, I mean, that's really the most of the things that have been going on. I've been really busy the last few weeks with all of that. And on top of that, my new job, which I'm still loving, still going great. Got a lot of birthdays. I've been doing a lot of birthday dinners and things like that. Life is good. Life is good. But the reason you all came here to talk about being 23 and thriving and understanding real estate lessons that I've learned, things that I want you guys to know and understand. These things are going to be all over the board. There's no specific category that I'm sticking to. There's no real rhyme or reason for these things. I was sitting on the couch a few days ago and thought of this topic and started brainstorming, and I wrote them down. And I'm just going to share them with you, and I'll just go on and kind of give you my perspective for each one. I'm happy to elaborate, and if you guys are interested in any of these more, just let me know, and we can talk about them maybe even in a whole episode or whatever. But yeah, so the first thing I think, and this is something I was literally talking about today, this comes up for me all the time, is people that speak negatively about their own field are discouraging because they hate to see others doing better than them, and especially at a young age. So you can't let this get in your way of being successful, of trying to be successful, of doing good things, of being a good person, of keeping that positivity or that positive energy, all of those things. Because when you first start, and I'm going to assume that this is a uniform experience for all new realtors because I've heard it so many times, and I was also someone who experienced this. There are a lot of realtors that are cutthroat. There are a lot of realtors or other real estate professionals that have been in this business for a really long time, and they hate to see a new young professional winning. They hate to see someone coming into this business doing better than them with less experience than them. And it's super unfortunate. There's a handful of really great people in this business that love to see the next generation doing great things, and they want to help them. I hope to be one of those people one day. Like, with my platform right now, I'm already trying to help other younger people. I mean, I know I'm only 23, but like people younger than me, I'm trying to help them get into real estate and helping, facilitate that pathway. But even when I'm older and, I hope I don't look back and be bitter because I'm no longer a young realtor, and, just helping other people, because realistically, it doesn't take away from my success. It doesn't at all. And, people say, okay, well, the more deals you have, the less I have. I don't buy into that. I really don't. I think, if you are working with a client, they were going to work with you anyway. It's not like you're taking a client away from me. It's not really a fight like that either. It's not like we're dueling it out for a client. Like, it's about relationships. It's about people. It's about the connection that you're building with those people. And so all of that is a bunch of bullshit. And it's used to make you afraid. It's used to make you think that you're not good enough, to make you think you're too young, to break your confidence down. And to be completely honest, and this is me being a therapist and having a master's in psychology, I don't fully think that the people doing this understand why they're doing it. I really don't. Like, if you were to clock someone who was treating you like that, I don't think that they would register, oh yeah, well, I am a jealous person. I am a person who is bitter. I am someone who doesn't like to see others succeed more than I have, or, whatever laundry list of things it is. But that's where it's coming from, okay? And I can tell you that for certain. And I can tell you that sometimes it gets to my head still. Even I have people that will still call me and be like, I know you're newer to this business, or who, blah, blah, this and that. And I've been in this business for so long. And, those little sly remarks and comments and things, and maybe they're not coming from a place of negativity, but they're said anyway. It is what it is. You keep kicking it. You keep rocking your rock and doing your thing, because none of that matters. And it's none of their business, quite honestly. So that's like my first kind of point, I think, to make, is that you do you. And, people have a lot of really great insight. There's a lot of, really great people to learn from. I preach mentorship all the time. I think it's amazing. I loved having a mentor, but finding the right mentor is also important. You don't need to work with the number one agent in your state who is a dickhead to everybody because they have a power complex for being the number one agent in the state. But maybe the number 237th agent in your state has half as many deals, but is very educated, very understanding and compassionate, and wants to help you. Work with them. Like, it does not have to be the best of the best to make you good at your job. So that's just kind of my perspective on that. And I find that people are always asking me how to be confident, how to, deal with people judging you for being young, how to deal with XYZ. And I'm always thinking, like, I mean, I get it, but also I see right through them, not the people asking the question, but I see right through this negativity. It's like, what reason do they have to be negative besides them being bitter and jealous? Like, name it. I can't understand one reason why they would be otherwise, So I'll leave that one there, but God, that's something I could talk about forever. The second thing was that real estate can be really innovative and it's fluid and that it changes with technology. So use the fact that you can sell real estate from your couch to your advantage. Think creatively and have fun with it. I bring this up in conjunction with the story that I started with. So having the opportunity to meet clients through social media, to meet people you've never once talked to in person, and to sell them a house completely entirely through the internet, through Dotloop, through DocuSign, whatever, and to never having had step foot in the property. These are things that happen every day in this business. I personally, I like those aspects of the job. I'm not saying I don't and that I wish everything was automated. I really do love getting to know people and showing them houses and doing all those things, but just recognize that there is more way than one to do this job. And it's going to continue to go that way, right? Like, we're just now tapping into the possibilities of AI and all of these things. And when we talk about that, a lot of times the conversation that's brought up is about how real estate agents are going to become obsolete because our job is not going to become necessary. I feel indifferent about that, right? Like, I don't like to make judgments about the future and try to predict something because there's no sense. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't feel like putting energy into that when I have enough problems going on right now that I want to worry about. But it's like, whether that happens or doesn't, there's going to be some result that we will have to take and move forward. One way or another, it'll be innovative and technology will be here. So use that to kind of bolster your business. I just feel like if you are sticking to your traditional real estate methods, like, you're getting left behind a little bit. And that does not mean you can't do them. I just mean in use with other supportive things, like, go door knocking, but put all of your door knocking stats into a software that helps you effectively door knock the right houses. Or, cold call, same thing, put it in a software. Like let's use these tools that we have so that we're strategizing and we're doing things efficiently. Efficiency is so important because, like, why are we wasting time when we have these tools? Even if it's like a little bit expensive or like it has, a fee or whatever, I just think we're missing out, like, if we're not using those things. So I don't know. Do with that what you will. Maybe that's just my take being a 23-year-old, but I have some realtors that I've worked with that are like paper only, by the book, don't know shit about technology, and they love it that way. Of course, that's all that they know. But I'm like, you guys could do a lot more if you leaned into this digital age. So anyway. Oh, and if I can add one more thing to that too, the story that I told in the beginning of this episode, like, that's not a one-time thing for me. Like, people, when I tell these stories on social media, are like, oh yeah, you just got lucky and blah, 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 blah. Again, the negativity, the jealousy, whatever. I don't care about that stuff. I just think that it's true that is a lucky thing to happen, but it's happened to me more often, not more often than not, but more often enough for me to know that it's not just luck, right? Like, I have done these things with a lot of buyers. So like, I've had clients where I orchestrated a showing from Virginia, drove home one day, showed it to them, was under contract. I did that with 2 buyers in one weekend. I've told that story on this podcast, I believe. It was like over my 21st birthday weekend where I had 2 houses under contract, went back to school. Like, that was something I orchestrated because of technology and was able to tackle all in one weekend. And like, that is not possible without the use of technology. So it's not just that was a one-off. That thing was something that can't ever happen again. It's more just like figuring out ways to do that more, and making your life easier, I think. That I will say is use the money that you make to make more money by investing in real estate or investing in general, and then using that money to invest in real estate because of the fact that passive income is key in life in general. And this is something that is personal. Like, money is personal in general. I don't want to preach money to you all because of that reason. Like, you all have your own finances. You have your own reasons. Some people have kids. Some people have multiple jobs. Some people don't have a job. Some people, like, y'all got your own things. And I get it. It's not the same for everybody, right? But when I learned about passive income, I think I was in college, and it changed everything for me. Quite honestly, like, the trajectory of my life plans, my goals, what I wanted to do, just everything shifted because I never understood that that there was a way in life to structure your businesses, your plans, everything, so that you could live your life every day and do whatever you wanted and still earn income so that you could do that, right? Like we understand that passive means that you are functioning your day-to-day life with little to no effort towards that job or business, and you're still bringing in cash flow. And there's so many ways to do passive income. Like, it doesn't have to be real estate. I just speak to real estate, of course, because I'm in this field, but you can do online businesses, you can do drop shipping, you can do print on demand, you can do, like, you name it. There's a ton of different things, but with real estate, it's particularly intriguing because you make such large commission checks at once, right? And if you're working full-time in real estate, it's a little different because you make a large commission check, and then that's like maybe potentially your paychecks for a few months rather than getting paid bi-weekly, versus someone like me where I have a full-time job where I'm getting paid bi-weekly. So real estate checks can just go be a down payment on a property. Like, if I get a $10,000 check, instead of having to go pay my bills with that for the next few months, I could instead just take that and go be like, oh, I wanted to buy this duplex. Let me just put $10,000 down on this duplex. Like, something like that. It's a very accessible vehicle to investing. And before I was even able to afford to purchase a home, because for a few years I wanted nothing more, but I couldn't do it because, one, I didn't make enough money my first year in real estate because I was gone 9 months of the year. And two, you have to have 2 years of tax returns even to qualify because I was a self-employed person. So for a few years, I couldn't even purchase a home. And in that time, the only thing I was able to do was invest the money that I was getting from real estate. So when I said in the start of this, like, invest in real estate, use the money you make from real estate to invest in real estate, or use the money you make from real estate to invest and then invest in real estate. That little bridge that I speak of is just because that's what I had to do, like, it's not always someone's next step. I had to wait 2 full years. Do you know how painful that is, especially for someone who is obsessive like me? Like, I don't mean obsessive like you guys might think. Like, I learned about, this is a side note, but I learned about limerence today, which I feel like maybe I should have known about already, but I didn't. And limerence is basically when you have a crush on someone, but you're like actually obsessed with them. And all the comments are talking about the link between limerence and OCD. And then I went down this whole rabbit hole because you guys know I have OCD. And I was like, oh my God, my whole life, like, I have these obsessions, not necessarily crushes, but like, I have limerence about everything because I just have an obsessive personality. Where was I going with that? Yes, passive income, buying houses. I was obsessed with it and I couldn't do anything for a long time. So instead I was investing money. I was letting that grow. I was doing things with that so that I could reach a point where I could eventually buy a house and let that get passive income. And I think I don't speak on this enough, but like, my plan eventually with real estate, with investing, is to hopefully stop selling real estate entirely, to stop working entirely, and to just live and have a passive income. If I think about my life 0 to 100, I don't want to spend 60 years of my life working my ass off. I want to spend my 20s grinding. I want to have a very successful career, make big strides, make a difference in this world. And then I want to turn 30. I want to have kids, and I want to do whatever the hell I want. And I mean, do I want to work? Do I want to continue my career? Maybe by then, like, the job that I work now, I've gotten promotions and I do all these cool things, and maybe I love that and I want to keep going. That's fine. But I'm saying that I don't want to be miserable and work a job for 40 years that I hate just because I need to afford my life. And so that's where I say passive income comes in. And when you're young and you have this ability to use real estate, instead of paying for your bills, maybe you live at home, maybe you do need to pay for your bills, but you have this extra money to put towards things like this. Sorry, I just hit you. Put it towards passive income. Something I learned from my team lead recently, and it kind of stuck out to me because this is something that I am working towards getting better about, and something that I definitely do all the time. And it's, you're not just doing anything. And I really like this because the job of a realtor is like a jack of all trades, where we're kind of like the middleman for a transaction. And so we're talking to title, we're talking to lending, we're talking to inspectors, appraisers, all these people in this transaction. And we're, making sure everything's done the right way and whatnot. But we also are really trying to make sure the client experience is good. Like, that's kind of our main focus because we're representing the client. But oftentimes that in turn makes us present to the client like, oh, no worries, no big deal, no big deal, blah, 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 blah. And I'm one of those people that does not want someone to feel like they are burdening me. Do I need to work on that? Maybe a little, but I will make sure people know that. Like, I'll be like, oh my God, no worries at all. You are so welcome, blah, 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 not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. Like, I will go on and on and on. And I do mean that. Like, I, most of the time, like, would do it over and over again, but I can be extra in that way. And saying just implies that the work that you're doing is not worth like that much. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that much effort. It's like, you can do it, whatever. It's just, I'm just doing this for you. I'm just submitting the contract. I'm just submitting an offer. Those are big things that you're doing. And so I've started trying to eliminate that word from my vocabulary, where I will be like, okay, I'm going to send this offer over and then we will do the negotiations. It just sounds a little bit more like professional. It also sounds a little bit more like, this is business. This is what we're doing. You are submitting an offer for a house. You're not just submitting an offer for a house. Like, we're doing this, okay? And I don't know that it's a big deal. I honestly didn't even know if I was going to bring that one up on this episode. I just think that it makes it a big difference. It also helps your clients recognize your worth. And especially now with this buyer agency agreement conversation that we're having to have because of the NAR settlement, it really helps your clients recognize your worth. Like, oh, I'm paying you now to do this job. Okay, well, why am I paying you? Not to just do things. It's to do these things because that's why I'm paying you, right? Okay, I'll move on. This is a big one. So just because someone says something works does not mean that it's going to work for you. And this is for a wide variety of reasons, because everyone's market, timeline, clientele, so much more of all of that is different. And it will shift the way that your first year in real estate goes. So you can't let it be discouraging to you. You can use it to educate yourself on different ways to advertise and get clients. There's just a lot of ways to interpret that first 3 months, that first 6 months, that first year in real estate. And it's easy to get discouraged. I think even that first hurdle of getting your license and then being a realtor is a lot of times discouraging for people because of the fact that once you have your license, you're like on your own, and people don't expect that. They expect their broker to like help them and give them clients or like things like that. And then they don't. And then they're like, what do I do? It's so overwhelming. And that is like a disappointing feeling. So, I mean, of course, my recommendation is always get a mentor, but like beyond that, it's like your mentor even could tell you, okay, this is what you got to do, blah, 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 cold call 10 people a day, blah, blah, do all these different things. And you could do that and it could not work, right? Like, you could not get the clients. And I'm emphasizing the point that when your mentor started 20 years ago, they could have done those things and they could have worked every single time for them. But 20 years ago, the market was different. Maybe they were in a different city. Maybe that city is the same city, but it's completely different now. Maybe there's new developments. Maybe, like, I'm trying to really make the point that everything changes. The market is constantly different. And even me talking about my Maryland market 4 years ago, oh my gosh, I was coming into a COVID market where interest rates were 2%. That is unheard of. I mean, I had a lot of success that year but the market was hot because of that fact, because of the interest rates being so low. So who knows what my first year would have been like if that wasn't the case. And, since then, it's hard to say what my experience would have been like if I wasn't in school or if, I wasn't working. Like it's not predictable. And I think a lot of people, reflect and compare and look at other people's experiences and let that kind of guide them. And so instead of using that to discourage yourself, I would just encourage you to take it with a grain of salt, look at what other people do in your market, maybe kind of try out a few different things and see what sticks, see what feels comfortable, and also see what you find interesting. Because if it's not interesting, I say this all the time, if it's not interesting, you're not going to do it. I mean, I would never door knock. I just wouldn't do it, and that's not for me. Similar to cold calling, I might cold call, but I just is not interesting to me. Social media though, yeah, I could record videos all day. So that's what I'm going to do. And so just more towards that, use the time where you don't have clients to really explore the ways that you could get clients and what you could do. And try not to let it discourage you, even though I know it is tough sometimes. Okay, I wrote, always stay calm. I love to stay calm while people yell at me. This is so funny to me that I put this on here. So this is something that took time for me. My first summer in real estate, I feel like that was the most aggressive summer that I experienced, probably because of the market at that time. But people will yell at you. It just happens. People are dicks and they're frustrating to work with. I don't know. And in fact, right now I'm working with someone who's not the best to work with, and I won't name names or anything, but it's frustrating. And I love to not give them an ounce, not an inch for them to work with. And this is something else that I feel like I've learned from psychology, where it's people want a reaction. They want you to respond so that they have something to be mad about or to work from, or, to give them that energy. And so if you don't, they're just left being well, damn, I was just rude and you didn't even say anything. And whether or not they register that, you're just not giving them the satisfaction that they want. And so internally, they're just getting more mad and angry. And you're over here being okay, congrats. I do this with all people. If anyone yells at me, I don't care if it's my boyfriend, he does not yell at me, by the way. That man has never yelled at me. I shouldn't have even used him as an example. But if my boyfriend were to yell at me, my parents yell at me, they have yelled at me before, but my parents yell at me. If anybody yells at me, I have the same approach. It's I can look you dead in the face. You can tell me everything you want to tell me, maintain my composure. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with me. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Well, I think we could tackle this by just calm, cool, collected. It pisses people off so bad because it's oh, are we getting emotional over that? Let's calm down, let's calm down. This is a real estate transaction. We can actually it's not that big of a deal. I love it. That's something that I just think is petty and I like, but anyway. And the last thing that I have on this list is that you want to assume that your clients know nothing, and let them tell you that they don't know it, or let them tell you that they do know it. I think that's what I meant to say, because it lets you showcase your skills and it lets you let them know that you know what you're doing. It's a good way to build confidence and to continue to reinforce the skills that you have. I think this is especially good as a new realtor, but even just throughout your career. I sometimes forget to do this, but I remember that as I get further in my career, the things that I know are less new to me, right? I've now known this information for 4 years. So when I meet new clients, first-time home buyers, especially because I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, I have to remember that I've now known this for 4 years, but they either don't know this at all, or it's probably very new information for them. And they're trusting me as their professional to inform them about these things. So that's my job in this situation. And whether or not I'm repeating things that they already know, they probably appreciate hearing it anyway, because it's a reinforcer to what they've already heard. And so that's kind of where I land with that, where I'm I'd rather yap and then be okay, we already heard that, than them be I don't know what's going on in this process. I don't really know where I'm at. I don't know what's going on. Feeling lost, feeling you're not helping them, or you're not sure. They're not sure if you're representing them well. And that was a fear that I had in the beginning, was just am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? And finding that balance, I just err on the side of do too much. let them figure that out, or let them tell you that you're doing too much, or like whatever. It's not a bad thing. It's always better to do too much than not enough. So yeah. So those are like a few of the things that I've learned since I've been in real estate that are not like, oh, this is how you do showing, this is how you do this, XYZ, more just like behind the scenes of like, it ain't that serious, right? Like we can do certain things in certain ways and it'll be okay. I hope you guys get that vibe from me too, where it's like, it doesn't have to be that serious. I mean, it is serious. Like these are home purchases. I always have to give that disclaimer when I say it's not that serious, because it is obviously big purchases and things, but I don't know. I just get really annoyed at the people that are like yelling and screaming and whatever. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the form and see which questions we've got for this week. So the question that someone asked was, I was wondering if you could give us apps or websites that you use for house sitting and pet sitting to have been able to earn extra income. Great video, by the way. Thank you. So I think this was pertaining to my last podcast where I talked about ways to affordably save to purchase a home. And to be honest, I didn't use any apps, but I know Rover exists. That's something I don't have like personal experience with, but I do know that that exists as like a reputable app for dog sitting or dog walking. But I will say, so I feel like every week I talk about these Facebook pages, but Facebook has a lot of community pages. And the one that I always talk about, Annapolis Moms, is one that I've been in forever. There's also like other ones that are community, like hyper local pages, like the community I grew up in has one. Then there's like bigger ones for just like the city I grew up in, like the neighborhoods around me. We have a few like buy nothing pages or yard sale pages. There's just like different things, and I'm a part of all of them because like one, Realtor, two, I've grown up here. It's just like a thing that a lot of people do. I don't know if this is common for all areas, so I just prefaced with this with the, like a lot of people in my area are part of these groups. But anyway, there's people posting in there all the time like, hey, I need a dog sitter for XYZ, or like my dog sitter canceled, I need someone. And I always am just like, hey, I'm a local grad student and I would love to help you out or whatever. Here's my number, call or text me anytime. And usually I felt like I was the only one that was like in grad school that would be like, and I knew that I would kind of get the job because the other people commenting were like high schoolers or people that were in college. And I don't know, not that that's bad. I think that's fine too. But if you have a grad student versus a college student, I think you'd pick the grad student just because it's like you're older and more mature. But especially when I was in grad school, I did so much house sitting, so much dog sitting just because of that. And I was always in those Facebook pages. I did it all the time. Like I said last week, I think there was like 1 month that I was not even home for a whole month because I was just house sitting for a whole month. And they pay really well. Like it would be like $500 a week. And all you have to do is like stay at their house, which is really nice. Anyway. So that was the only question for this week. And I believe that's everything I wanted to touch on with you guys. So I love you all very much. Thank you for tuning in this week. And I will see you all. Oh, actually, I will not see you next week because it's Thanksgiving. I am taking the week off. I will be with my grandparents and my family and everybody. So I hope you all enjoy the holiday if you celebrate. And I will be with you next Friday. So see you in 2 weeks. All right. I love you. Bye-bye.